So there is a lot of egg drama on the internet right now. You've likely seen the reels and videos of people treating eggs like drug deals in parking lots, which I think are hilarious. But if you go to the grocery store and buy eggs, you will be shocked. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. We're all talking about eggs. They're high priced, there are shortages, there's the bird flu drama. It's a hot topic of conversation, even among people who've never really thought about eggs before. And I know that many of you listening might feel slightly, maybe a little smug, a little immune to the drama because we all have chickens and we generally don't have to worry much about egg shortages, especially this time of year rolling into spring. Sometimes we have the opposite problem. It's what do we do with all the eggs? So today, just to celebrate all of the national egg drama, we're going to talk about eggs. And I have an incredible author who penned a book and knows all about this. In fact, the title of her book is Too Many Eggs, which I can't think of a better title. And she knows her stuff, from egg history to egg uses to recipes. We're going to just cover the whole gamut of egg topics. So Mimi Smith-Dvorak, welcome to the show. I am so excited for this conversation. I think it's going to be a good one.
I'm glad to be here. And eggs.
Eggs. What else do we need to say?
You know, I did cook every recipe in the book except for 2. And so when I got done with the book, I'm kind of off eggs.
I would imagine. Because guys, I just want to, so you know what this book is. This is not a typical cookbook. This is a monster book. It's huge, and it doesn't have photos, which I know some people would be like, "Oh, I need photos in my cookbook." But this one's just super special because it's kind of that old school style of cookbook, which it has some lithographs and some drawings, but it just has recipes. And how many recipes are in the book, Mimi? I know there's more than the average.
Well, there's 750 pages, and there are like 820 recipes total.
Yeah.
And we did footnotes, and I did, food history, because I think food history is kind of interesting if you want to bore people at a dinner table about the story of the food they're eating. I went way deep in the subject, probably deeper than anyone should have gone. But it was because what started as I got 25 chickens from a hatchery, thinking, 25 chickens, this isn't a problem. And didn't realize that a straight run, you get 2 dozen eggs a day. Yeah. We've all been there. And no one would take my eggs. All my neighbors are like, no, thanks. I've already had some. Thank you.
Yep.
So my poor kids, I was like, well, I'm going to find egg recipes. And I have a huge collection of cookbooks. So I started going through all my really ancient cookbooks to see, and I would find recipes. Oh, that only uses 1 egg.
Don't Such a disappointment. Whenever I've come across that, same problem, I'm like, I'm going to go find the eggiest recipe I can. And it's like, this one uses so many eggs. It's 3. And I'm like, y'all, like, that's not even a dense. That's not even worth doing. So
exactly. And I had ducks at the same time. So I was getting, we had geese. So I was getting so many eggs. So I started just going crazy. Of course, this was also a grief project because I was going through, I had my brother died. And this is how I worked through my grief, was by putting this book together. And then I got even nuttier. So, yeah.
But like I said, I think I told you before we hit record, I love obsessive people are my favorite. You're my person. Like that's what I do. I love, like, if we're going to go all in. Like, why do it halfway? And I've told people before, like, single subject cookbooks are my favorite type of cookbook because you can go so deep and really understand whether it's pies or eggs or bread. Like, that's the type of cookbook I like.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I collect cookbooks. So and I read them from cover to cover, which is just insane. But,
but a lot of people do that, I think. And that's why I love books like yours, because it's not just the ingredient list. It's the history. It's I love footnotes. I love author notes. Like, that's what really, connects me to a cookbook, when it's more than just, the form recipe.
Yeah. And we decided, and I like old cookbooks better than new ones. I call them food porn books, where they just have, it's like, I can't make it look like that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Don't set the bar so high. I can't do it. So my favorite recipe that I didn't know about and discovered was the savory bread puddings.
Oh, okay. That sounds old school. Like, where does that date back from?
Well, good question. Forever, because it's stale bread and it's a custard, And then any leftovers you've got, or anything you want to put into it. So you can put meat in it, cheese in it. You can put, vegetables in it. You can put mushrooms in it. But it's resurrecting stale bread, and you can feed an army for nothing. So, and the better the bread, the better the product. I never knew. I hate bread pudding. As a kid, I hated bread pudding and the sweet stuff. So when I came upon this, I was just like, this is what I need. And then quiches, people think quiches are something like magical or I don't know what. And you bring a quiche and people are like, oh, quiche. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
To me, that's like farm wife food, because the farm wife is like, I got to use up some dairy and some eggs. So here we go. But they're good.
Yeah. And cheese. Yeah.
And cheese.
Yeah. No, I went through, so I cook everything from scratch, which is kind of, another weirdness. I decided to make the best cheesecake in the world. So I made a pound cake, and then I sliced it up and I dried it, and then I ground it up, and that was my crust. And then I took, milk and got the cream off it, and I made, cream cheese, hanging it in a bag and letting it drip for days.
You were going back to basics. Okay. I like where you're going with this. Yep.
So, so I finally make this cheesecake. It takes me a week.
Yes.
It was a cheesecake. It was just a cheesecake. It wasn't like
spectacular.
I tried.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a while when I had my chickens, I decided that I could flavor the eggs. There goes my dog. Sorry.
It's all right.
So, which is actually something that people do. So I started feeding my chickens a whole lot of garlic to see if I could garlic flavor the eggs. And you can. It's not delicious. It's kind of weird.
So you did get the flavor through, but not like in probably the sense that you were hoping. No.
It wasn't that interesting, but there is a restaurant in upstate New York that feeds their chickens a lot of beets. Like just a ton of beets, red beets. They shred them up and it goes in their food, and it colors the egg so they have intensely reddish yolks, which is really interesting. It's real pretty.
That is
interesting. Yeah, I know. It's like, it's like in the spring, you see your chicken eggs get really nice, dense colored because they're eating all the grass.
Yep.
So yeah, you can actually influence it. And, battery cage chickens, that are warehouse chickens that most people eat, they feed them annatto with their food.
Yes. That's what they use to color cheese too.
Yeah, but a lot of people are allergic to annatto. So a lot of people who say, I'm allergic to eggs, aren't allergic to eggs. They're allergic to the annatto.
I did not know that. Oh, yeah, my
so if they ate real eggs from real chickens, that run around and eat bugs, they probably wouldn't have a problem. So yeah, we having backyard chickens is the best thing you can do. I mean, oh my God. I had chickens in Berkeley. When I lived in Berkeley, California, I had, the illegal chickens.
I love illegal chickens. They're the best kind of chickens.
Yeah. So, I mean, chickens are great. They're, and I recommend them to everybody because it's like they'll eat all your leftovers, especially when you have kids.
Yes. Yes.
And they eat all your trimmings, and they eat all the bugs, and they're just, they're little dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really a full circle when you start to realize, you're not throwing things in the plastic lined trash can and going back to the earth and the chickens, and it's coming back in your kitchen. I just love it. Every time I put stuff in the chicken bucket, I've been doing it for 15 years. It still just makes me happy that it's not going in the garbage. So
I used to give my chickens watermelon. How do they slurp?
I know. Yeah. Yes. But they do.
Yeah. And of course, occasionally I'd give the chickens eggs. So I called it my perpetual motion machine. I'd fry up a bunch of eggs and give them to the chickens, and they'd go, oh, yum. And I was like, I can do this forever.
Forever. I know. There's no diminishing returns. We're just going for it. Yeah. So I'm curious, just because eggs are such a hot topic on the news. Do you have thoughts on the current shortages or the people complaining about prices? Do you have any, big picture ideas on that?
There are only about 5 major egg producers in this country, and they're all in the center of the country. There's my macaw.
Oh, you got a macaw and a mastiff. Look at you.
Just, yeah. I haven't had a macaw egg yet, but I'm thinking about having a macaw roast for dinner.
I mean, you could go either way.
So, these farms are huge. The chicken growing things, they're giant barns with battery cages. There's cages stacked on top of each other as high as you can see. The chickens have a little teeny space to turn around in. The ones on the top poop on the ones down the bottom. It's a monoculture, so they're using all the exact same breed. Which is why one chicken gets detected with bird flu and they panic and they just cull everything, good or not. And these animals don't get any sunlight. And by not getting sunlight, they have no ability to get an immune response.
Yes.
These guys don't want to pay the 5 cents each to have them inoculated, to have vaccines. So it's kind of it was waiting to happen. And we've had a couple of big bird culls in the last 20 years that I can think of. Yes. And China's had some unbelievable ones. And it's like, chickens shouldn't be in these giant warehouses. I mean, they should be running around the yard and doing what they do and molting and not having any eggs in the middle of winter. And,
yes.
It's just, it's the way we're doing this factory farming that's the problem.
I agree. And I would hope that with the culling, I mean, I'm assuming insurance takes care of it for the farmers. There's got to be incredible losses. But I would hope with this happening, it seems like in more frequency the last couple years that it causes people to look at the system and go, hey, the system's not working. Like, how can we do something different? This is to the benefit of the egg growers.
Those big concerns, because now they can charge more for eggs. What we consider to be a cheap product, they can go, you know what, they'll pay. Let's see what we can push. So it's a win-win for them. And they, there was a cull just a few years ago and they didn't clean well enough. So it came back.
Yeah.
And China's killed billions of birds.
Yep.
And they keep the biggest problem. I mean, so far it hasn't made the transmit, it hasn't come over to people because it just hasn't yet. But what really concerns me is, bird flu is what caused the 1918 pandemic.
Right.
And it's like, and that was from keeping chickens with pigs because it can cross to pigs and pigs can cross to us because we're pigs.
Yeah. So very similar. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
So, all that really concerns me. But at the same time, I think everyone should just get a couple of chickens in their backyard. Why not? All it really entails is if you live in a town, you have to go to your city council and complain to them about needing, less restrictive
rules on it.
And
yes.
Yeah. But it's the government really pushed for all of us during World War II, we had victory gardens and they pushed for us to have chickens because, well, it's eggs, it's, the rooster's dinner, Sunday dinner. Yep. And, they create fertilizer and they just do such great things. And it's like, I don't think it's offensive. All you need is one of your neighbors to have some chickens and you've got more than enough eggs.
Right. So, and that's the thing is, even if not every single person had them, but you had it, every fifth house in a neighborhood had them, it could supply enough.
Yep.
Frog in my throat. But yeah, I think that decentralization on that with the food supply, it makes it so much stronger because let's say a backyard flock gets a sickness, it's going to not affect the whole entire country like we're seeing right now. So,
different chicken breeds lay different eggs. And by the way, I stay away from chickens that say lively and good foragers because they would always leave my yard and get eaten by raccoons.
Yes. I had Icelandics once and they were like, I hate you, we're leaving. Because they were so independent and so, feral. So
I liked heavy body, calm.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
But, the chickens, just the color of the yolk, the shells is one thing, but the eggs have different qualities. I think the little ones that you get from bantams are way more flavorful. Like the ones you get from silkies. Silkies are great anyway, because they'll hatch anybody's eggs. Put a duck egg under them, they'll hatch it and they're very confused when they're hatched. Wait, where'd this come from? But, No, I think, it's like, and there's some breeds, actually, there are some chicken breeds that were on the verge of extinction before people started having backyard, just like with all animals, with, the livestock conservatory is really interested in having people grow different animals because that way we keep the diversity. And different animals have different immune systems. And I think, that richness is really something we need.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious because I know there's people listening right now who are looking at the shortages and going, yeah, that's not my problem. I am in spring mode with my chickens. I am drowning. I know that was your situation and you wrote a book on it. But like, if you had, 50 dozen eggs right now, what would be their favorite way to start going through them? Like, what's your favorite top, 2 recipes for that, or techniques, or whatever you want to call it?
Well, I like hard-boiled eggs, so I have a lot of hard-boiled egg recipes, including my grandmother's hard-boiled egg cookies, which is a German recipe.
Ooh, okay.
And you take a hard-boiled egg and you mash it up and you mix it into the cookie dough, and she would give it to me and go, "See, you're not spoiling your dinner." It's a good way to get extra protein into a kid.
Yeah.
I went nuts over Scotch eggs, and Scotch egg is the hard-boiled egg that you mash a bunch of sausage around, and then you can roll it in breadcrumbs, and you can either fry it or you can bake it. And it's this meal in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And they're delicious with beer.
Okay. Yeah.
Good bar food.
Sure.
I really went crazy with those. My kids got a little sick of them. The bread puddings I really like. There's egg soups that are delicious. I never knew about egg soups until I did this book. And there's both custardy soups, and then there's the ones that you just throw an egg into a soup. There's a lot more egg sandwiches than I ever knew existed.
Okay.
Like in Holland, they make a sandwich that's just sliced hard-boiled eggs on bread with, bread, with sandwich fixings.
Okay.
It's really good. I didn't think it would be, but it's really delicious.
Yeah.
I really got into French toast as a dinner item, which is how it's eaten in most of the world. Most people don't eat it as a breakfast item. They put ketchup with it, and it's delicious with ketchup. You just don't put
French toast?
French toast.
Oh, so a savory. We're not doing powdered sugar and cinnamon necessarily.
No.
Okay.
We're doing, and you can really spice up the eggs. You can put a lot of different spices in it, and it's interesting. And then, of course, there's always the pickled eggs, which, I have mixed feelings about some of the pickled eggs, but they're interesting. And I got into barbecuing my eggs for pickled eggs.
Oh, okay.
So, you put them on the coals or on the grill as it's cooling off, and you just let them sit and they cook, which is like an oven cooked egg. And then, I'd get them cold, and then I'd crack the shells and put them on. And the next time we smoked, I would smoke the eggs, and then I would pickle them. Ooh. It gives a different flavor to it. I did that. Actually, I love pickling quail eggs, and they're delicious in martinis.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have thought of that. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. I have a whole chapter on egg drinks because that was the best one to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can make eggnog ahead. I mean, I've got the eggnog recipes with the science behind it and how you can hold them for a long, like you can make eggnog in Thanksgiving and hold it, and then it'll in the refrigerator, and then it'll marry with all the alcohols and be delicious by the time Christmas comes around as gifts. So I used eggs for everything.
Yeah.
And there is a chapter about, how people would try to preserve eggs, and I never got into that. I absolutely think the people who do it with the glass water and all that is just fantastic.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And there are old recipes that I didn't get into because I saw no point in it. It used to be that you'd lay you'd lay up your eggs when the chickens were laying a lot in the summer. So you'd put them in either straw or sand or in glass water, which is this concoction.
Yep. I have tried that. It does work shockingly well. Yeah.
But the eggs, when they get when the chickens aren't laying, they start getting thick. because, they've lost some of their moisture because, eggs are porous. So there were recipes in really old cookbooks I'd find say, take a winter egg. I was like, what the hell is a winter egg?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So then when I started realizing that it's these eggs that are slightly dehydrated and they're thicker. And that's why you have some old Christmas recipes, like Christmas cakes, that are just dense. And that's what they were calling for, to make them dense. So, yeah, it's lost recipes.
I love those pieces where it's the foods that we associate with different things, whether it's condiments or seasonal foods or holiday foods. And then we just think that's what we eat. And we're like, and then we learn why. And it's usually related to the food and the seasonal and how it was grown. Those are my favorite bits of food history.
Mine too.
Yeah.
The food history, it's, we have a relationship with eggs. We've had it forever. We're omnivores. If it's edible, we'll eat it. And it's like the variation of eggs. We used, like in England, they have like 6 people who are allowed to pick gull eggs off the cliffs. And gull eggs are a huge delicacy. And they bring them to one of a couple of restaurants that are very elite. And they hard boil them and then serve them with celery salt. And I guess because gulls eat fish, they're very fishy.
Okay. Well, I'm sure someone likes it. So, all right. Interesting.
Huh. Yeah. We eat, we eat in parts of the world, we eat reptile eggs, which to me doesn't sound delicious, but, they're a complete meal. So,
yes.
Yeah.
What was your favorite historical tidbit that you discovered while writing the book? Do you have
about
one
the Romans? I love the Romans. Okay, the Romans, when they're back in those days, if you knew an invading army was coming, you'd kill off you just slaughter all your animals because that way this army would have nothing to eat. Mm-hmm. So they'd stop because you can't keep an army moving in if they don't have any food.
Sure.
So the Romans devised these wagons that were chicken coops.
Oh.
So they'd stop and they'd let the chickens out for the day, and the chickens would scour the countryside. Even if it was burned, they always find food to eat. And chickens always go back to their roost. Yeah. So the entire Roman army just was run on chicken eggs and chickens.
That's awesome.
And they ate their books are still around. You can still find the really old Roman cookbooks. One of my favorite recipes that I came across was a deviled egg that the yolk was mixed with honey, and that was a dessert. So there are dessert deviled egg recipes in the book.
Okay, I've never thought of that.
Well, that's intriguing. A lot of old recipes use, instead of mayonnaise, which is the normal carrier, you can do cream cheese, you can do butter, you can do you can make sweet ones, again, with the cream cheese and chocolate. You can flavor them, and that's kind of interesting. And the reason we call them deviled eggs, by the way, it was because they put paprika on them.
Yes.
Which was, and there were a lot of churches that wouldn't allow it because, you have to call them stuffed eggs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that. Yep. Yep.
So
that's funny. Okay.
And there's a lot of all the stories. Like I would find a couple of recipes and I go, well, these are the same recipes, from different parts of the world, which is really because there's a lot of recipes from other parts of the world because everybody eats eggs. And, it's like, I don't see how anyone can say that they've inherited, like, oh, we invented this. And then one of the cases is in mayonnaise. The French claim it, we made it, except you can find predated recipes from the Basque region, and they called it bayonnaise.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
The only difference is they put hot spices in it. But it's like an emulsified egg. Who can say they actually, invented this? It's kind of by the way, making your own mayonnaise is fantastic.
Okay, I was just going to ask you, because I know you have a mayonnaise section. I saw it in there. What are your best practices for mayonnaise? Because if you Google it, there's a ton of technique and a ton of, you have to do this, you have to do that. What did you find just works consistently?
Well, I kept breaking it. I kept breaking the emulsion. So you have to go slow. So it's patience. And the only way I could teach myself to do that was by using an eyedropper.
Oh, bless you. Oh my goodness. Okay.
So once I started realizing, when you can see it starting to break, you can add a little bit of hot, really cold water. There's a bunch of things you can do. But it was just getting the technique down. Once the technique's down, I could make it. I don't do that anymore. I just pour a really thin. It's just, you just can't overwhelm the emulsion. And it's not hard. It's like, fresh mayonnaise is so much different than store-bought mayonnaise. Mm-hmm. And it just has so many more flavors that you can add to it. And, it is really interesting. Although you can't try to make Best Foods mayonnaise or Hellmann's. Don't try for that flavor. Try for flavors that you like more, because you'll be disappointed otherwise. Because there's something weird about store-bought mayonnaise. You know how they started selling mayonnaise?
No.
My favorite. This was the marketing ploy. Oh, women shouldn't make it when they're having their periods.
Really?
It's so fit.
Because it would break? Quote unquote.
Yeah, that's what these guys, a bunch of marketing execs started. So women were like, oh, I shouldn't try. Oh, so we'll just buy this. It's so much easier. It's like we were brainwashed.
Yes. Yeah. That the processed food marketing at its finest, for sure.
Well, the whole thing for eggs for breakfast, it was because Edward L. Bernays, the guy who was the father of PR, of modern PR, he's the guy who first realized that if you can link a product to a celebrity, it'll sell.
Yeah.
He's the guy who sold smoking to women by calling them torches of freedom.
Yeah. Yes.
He sold the world on using industrial waste known as fluoride into our water supply.
Yeah.
And he's the one who, the beech nut company came to him because they go, because of Kellogg and this, the whole cereals, these box cereals that were, everyone was like, they're miracle food. People weren't eating bacon. So he started, he's the one who coined the phrase, breakfast, the most important meal of the day.
Really?
It was marketed.
That's a marketing. Yeah. That's not a science thing. That's a marketing. I'm not saying breakfast isn't important, but that's a marketing term. He
wrote to 5,000 different doctors and said, do you think it's more important to have a substantial breakfast or not? And all these guys started saying, 4,500 of them wrote back going, I think you need to have a substantial breakfast. And he's the one who said, well, if you have bacon, you have to have eggs.
Okay.
For breakfast.
Sure.
So it's like, we lost an entire bunch of recipes that's like, eggs aren't just for breakfast, they're for any time, they're for dinner. So I thought that was kind of like, oh, great. It was another thing that we've been brainwashed about.
Yes. Those marketing, I have such a fascination with, from like 1930s, 1970s, where that marketing really started to pick up, World War II and all that. Fascinating how the culture shifted so quickly. And those guys were genius. Like they knew what they were doing. Well, they really cemented it in there.
He was the nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Oh, now that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Double nephew, actually.
Double nephew. So he knew some psychology in there. He was, yeah.
Well, his mother was Sigmund's sister, and then his father was related to Sigmund's wife.
Okay.
Talk about inbred.
That doesn't seem like that's supposed to happen like that.
And reading some of his books, like Propaganda is one of his books.
Yeah.
Oh, gee. You read it and you just go, oh, I see what happened to us. We just started getting, they found the way to sway public opinion. And, before that, cookbooks used to give you the most, I don't know if you've ever read the cookbooks from the late 1800s, but it's like, they tell you how to clean your house. And they tell you that, some of my cookbooks that I have actually say, this cover is washable. Hygienic cover.
Hygienic, yeah. Yep.
And it was, and they always had recipes for invalids, for sick people.
Yep.
And they would give recommendations on how to keep people from being sick. And, you just read this stuff and you go like, really, my kid's got a cold and I'm supposed to put his feet in ice water? Really?
Yeah. Yep. The urban, or not, I don't know what you call it. Old wives' tales, urban legend. Yeah. The fascinating from back then when we, yeah.
Yeah. Now we just rely on experts for everything.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing. And yeah, common sense always takes a back seat too. What are we supposed to do? What are the experts telling us?
Experts and consultants. Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. No, I know. Unfortunately, I've lived through too much of this history.
Yep. No, that's good. That's, you have the perspective, and that's what we need more of, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, as far as I'm concerned, feminism failed.
Yep.
Yeah. So, eggs are, this book was just an insane project. It was just like, the more I found, the more I wanted. I mean, I still like look through a book and go, oh, I've never seen this recipe before.
Yeah.
One of which I came across was, in the Alice Waters cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about truffling eggs. So you take a raw egg and you put it in the enclosed space like a jar with a truffle, and you leave it there for a couple days. And because the egg is porous, the intense truffle smell will get into the egg and flavor the egg. And then you can make like a nice little custard, savory custard, and with truffles in it. And it really is delicious. I mean,
that is good.
So
I wonder what else you could put in a jar with an egg to make it flavor. Have you tried anything else like that?
No.
Okay. Now my wheels are turning.
I did find there was a chef. His name is Pella Pratt, and he did all kinds of really wild things. And one of which I didn't do because then I thought it was a little overkill. Is he would soft boil an egg, and then he would take the yolk out. He would make a little hole and drain the yolk, and then he would stuff it with foie gras.
Okay.
And I just was like, well, this is a really interesting idea, but
yeah.
I don't like foie gras anyway.
I've always been, a little bit. It's not called to me ever. Yeah. No.
But I was thinking, you could stuff it with tuna fish.
Mm-hmm. Other things, yeah.
And it would just, But then again, there is going overboard, and some of these recipes are like that I found were just like, nobody's doing this. Right. It's like when you make a glaze, 15 hours of cooking. No thanks.
Right, and that's always when I recipe develop. I love challenges, and I love an element of complexity and learning new things. But then there's a point I'm like, nobody's going to do this. Like, this is not a thing. This is not going to happen, especially for homesteaders or people who have lives. Like, this is not worthy of passing along to my people because it's just,
What I had, so I don't like baking. I just hate baking. It's just not my thing. But I found the recipes that are called brique, and it's an egg in a pastry.
Oh, okay.
And they're in the back of the books. It's in one of the smaller chapters. And it took me like 15 tries to get it. But when I got it, it's delicious. It's like,
yes.
And sometimes, things like that are kind of interesting to me. And I was actually fascinated by the fact that, like, people put eggs in porridge. They put eggs in oatmeal. And
okay.
Yeah.
Like a poached egg, or mix it in? It's
raw, but if the cereal is hot enough, you just mix it in and it cooks. And it was like, it sounded terrible to me, but it really makes a nice hearty breakfast.
I bet it's way more filling, because usually, oatmeal alone doesn't do much for me. I'm like hungry by 10 o'clock. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Although the best is in the Middle Ages. A very common breakfast was a big pint of ale and then a raw egg in it.
Oh, just break it right in there. Okay. I mean, I could see some people loving that.
And this was also popular, like the late 1800s in this country because the heavy ale is bread, it's just liquid bread.
Sure.
And the egg is the protein. And what a way to start a work shift.
It's kind of almost a complete meal. Like you're real close. It's real close.
Beer for breakfast. I can see how this country was made.
Yeah, exactly. It's in there. People are writing it down as we speak. So that's funny.
Yeah. So I don't know. Eggs.
Eggs.
As my husband says, don't get her started on eggs.
Yeah. No, I think we should. I think I like getting you started on eggs. I think this is fascinating. So. Hey friend, I'm interrupting this episode for just a second to tell you about something new that I recently discovered, and I think you might be interested. So here on the show, we talk a lot about ingredient swaps and how we can get back to the nutrients we're designed to consume without all of the industrial junk. And one of the ingredients that's super important that I think we often overlook is water. So obviously our bodies are made up primarily of water, and we're supposed to consume a lot of water during the day. Whether or not we do that is a whole nother topic. And beyond that, water can greatly affect the outcomes of some of your old-fashioned from scratch foods. I'm namely thinking of things like sourdough or lacto-fermented veggies. So I was really excited to discover AquaTrue, which is a reverse osmosis countertop water purifying system. Kind of a mouthful, but it's super cool because it filters out a ton of chemicals that are likely in your tap water that could not only be less than ideal for your body, but they may be messing up your homemade foods and you don't even realize it. This filter will take out the forever chemicals, think like PFAS, fluoride, chlorine, arsenic, nitrates, pesticides, and herbicides. And those last three are especially concerning if you live in an area with a lot of industrial farming because they'll get into the groundwater. And I think what I love most about it is it's a countertop purifier pitcher system. So you don't have to redo your plumbing. You don't have to hire someone to install it. You just take it out of the box and go. Honestly, my 11-year-old put it all together for me and it was super easy. So it filters out 15 times more contaminants than an ordinary pitcher. And I especially love the chlorine part because I wish I had a nickel for every time one of you have emailed me asking how to get the chlorine out of your water for your sourdough starter. So it can do that plus so much more. One filter lasts anywhere from 6 months up to 2 years. And if you have been buying bottled water, it will save you the same as buying up to 4,500 bottles of water. So it's a really good deal. And if you head on over to aquatrue.com, that's AQUATRU.com, and use the code HOMESTEAD, you can save 20%. So head on over, check it out, and let's get back to the show. I'm curious, have you ever had an egg experiment go terribly wrong? Because everyone loves the mess up stories. Do you have any good, disaster egg stories?
Well, I did cook about 100 eggs easily, trying to find the best way to hard boil an egg. And this
let's talk about that. Yeah.
So there's you poke a hole in the end of the egg, or you put vinegar in the water, or you put baking soda in the water, or you immediately plunge it into cold water. I couldn't get any consistency. Nothing worked exactly, and especially not with a new laid egg, because they need to be a little older before they really hard boil. But I did get the most satisfaction steaming them, where you put them in, you have a vegetable steamer basket and you just let the water just boil for like 20 minutes. Or I always overcook my eggs.
I do too. They're usually slightly green. I'm like, it's fine. That's fine.
So, when you steam them, you don't get the green. And then the other thing is how to peel eggs. The fastest way, if you have a whole bunch of eggs, is you leave them in the pot and you pour off the water and you just start shaking the pot, and it cracks all the eggs, and you can peel them really easily because, and that's what it's called, the old army technique.
Oh, cool. Okay. That's awesome.
I made pickled eggs where you take the egg and you put it in with the shell on it, and then the vinegar will dissolve the shell. The problem is the inner membrane is still intact. So to me, it was just the wrong texture for me because it was like eating a reptile egg. It was just.
I could see that, yeah, because it's just super rubbery.
I couldn't stand it. It was just like, bleh. So I only did that once. It just, for some reason, it just grossed me out. I have no idea why. So that was kind of, it was interesting. I got really good at finding eggs that were good eggs because after you have the first one explode in your kitchen because it's actually rotten.
It's the worst. That pop is like terror. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. And then the smell and yep.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite way to determine, because like most of my homestead friends, we've all found the clutch of eggs. We're like, how old is this? I don't know. Some you can tell immediately. I mean, I've tried the water. I've tried a variety of different techniques. I've always been like, I don't know if I trust. What do you find works for that?
The water's I always use the water. You can fill up enough so that the egg you can see if it tilts up, great, hard boil it. If it starts floating, toss it carefully.
Yes.
And if it's completely floats at the top, you wrap it in about 6 baggies and you carry it out. Like it's going to go off any minute.
Yes.
But eggs don't have to be refrigerated right away, so it's fine. They'll hold as long as they aren't washed or refrigerated. Which is we don't know about. And the eggs you buy in stores can be up to like 7 months old, 8 months old. They're refrigerated forever, which is why we started having problems with salmonella.
Oh, because of the age.
Because of the age. The longer these little guys stay around, I mean,
it's incubating the stuff.
Yeah.
Basically. Okay.
Yeah.
I know Europe doesn't refrigerate. I know the US does. And most of my homestead folks, like we all leave our eggs on the counter without washing them first. When did that, do you have any history tidbits on kind of when that became such a thing and we all became brainwashed that eggs have to be refrigerated?
Yeah, when refrigerators showed up in our houses.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. #marketing. So, yeah. Oh,
yeah. My mother was adamant. Well, you can't leave eggs out. They go bad instantly. And it was like, okay. You have to keep them. But, we also started doing cold storage eggs. I mean, we are eating eggs that are weeks old if you buy them in a grocery store.
Yes.
So, there's that. It's just like the pull date on eggs just always makes me laugh.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm always amazed with my homegrown ones, especially like how long they can last. Like you said, they won't, like they're not as fresh and they get a little bit thicker if they've been in the fridge for months and months, but it's amazing how long they last.
Yeah. And I used to actually write dates on my eggs when I would bring them in. I would put little pencil marks and just to see how long they were still fine. And, months. I mean, I could get a couple months.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why you'd open my refrigerator and it'd be all eggs.
Yep. Been there. There's no room for anything else. The kids are like, what's for supper? I'm like, eggs. Well, what kind of eggs? Any eggs. Just all the eggs. Just however you want to eat them. I don't care. So. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And that's how this book came about. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. We can all relate to that. Yeah. Did you come across any interesting non-culinary uses for eggs when you're writing the book?
I did. Tons. That didn't make it in the book because my book was too thick. Yeah. So there was the tempera paints. I did egg tempera paints.
Okay.
I found all kinds of ways to dye eggs with natural ingredients like onion skins and beets there's the most beautiful, you take egg shells and you crush them and you glue them to wood. It was very popular at a time. I tried so hard. It's really, you're there with tweezers and glue and it's amazing looking though. Mm-hmm. I never mastered that. I found a lot of remedies. Like one of my favorite ones is if you take the egg membrane, that what's under the shell and before the sac, basically. If you have a hangnail, you wrap it around there and the egg will help it heal. I found, and also if you break an egg and you're trying to separate your eggs out, from white and from yolk, and you drop a little bit of shell in, how you just use the other shell to scoop it out, and it somehow magically goes right to the shell. It wants to. It works.
Go back together. Okay, yeah. That's cool. That's cool.
I found egg paints actually are really interesting. So there's a lot. So if you just take the white of the egg, you can use that as a it's outdoor paint. There's some recipes out there for outdoor paint that's made from eggs.
Okay.
So that was interesting. Eggs you use for finding. My grandmother used to make coffee, and she would, just put the grounds in a pot.
Yep.
And then she'd throw in the eggshells, which would help, it smooths out the coffee, and it also would make the coffee grounds stay at the bottom. So she didn't have any other way. She just poured off the top, and that was the coffee.
I have heard that's a cowboy lore. The old cowboy camp cooks would do that.
It works, yeah.
Yep.
And actually, egg does. You can smooth out coffee with it. I think it tastes terrible, but I want some bite to my coffee.
Yeah, sure.
But it's really good with chocolate. With like hot chocolate and coffee.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay,
yeah.
I wouldn't thought of that. Yeah, nice.
I had a whole section on just egg jokes. I mean, please.
I bet. There's plenty.
And egg phrases. Yeah. But there's a lot of goofy things you can do with eggshells. I mean, I actually would blow the eggs a lot. I would there's a little German device where you can blow the eggs. I have hundreds of blown eggs. And we started doing the wax resist.
Mm-hmm.
So we would dye the eggs and have these really incredible things. And then we were trying to carve the eggs. It's like eggs became kind of,
part of the family. It sounds, after writing that extensive of a book, I imagine, yeah.
Although I'm so glad my chickens are gone.
So you don't have no chickens at all?
No, Survivor, the last one finally died off, and I went, that's enough.
Take a little break. That's okay. That's fine. I feel like you've earned that.
I know everyone who raises chickens, so I buy from their little honor farm. Actually, I do all my shopping at honor farms. I haven't been to a commercial store for food for more than a decade, and I won't step into Walmart. I will not. I refuse to.
I just deeply dislike Walmart. We should definitely, yes, absolutely.
It's like the only way I can vote is with my wallet.
Yeah.
But yeah, the honor farms. I love the honor farms. It makes it really interesting to drive around. There's a lot of little farms in the area. So in the summer, I go and get my honey, and I get my vegetables, and I get my eggs, all from different places. And my family suspects that I just don't like to see people, but
that's okay too. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the best way to grocery shop, though. I mean, that's how grocery shopping should be.
Yeah. Well, but I buy half of I buy a locker beef anyway. So
sure.
And I look for heirloom beef. I like the weirder breeds because they all have their own, like Highland cows, even though they're really cute, they're delicious.
Yes. No, I've heard that. I haven't had it, but I've heard a lot of people say that. It's not just for pretty pictures, guys. They taste really good.
You have yak up in your area.
We do. There's a guy, a couple hours north of us who just made all the news with the yaks. I'm like, why not? It feels like it'd go with our Wyoming climate. So let's do it. I
buy from him.
Oh, you do? That's way cool.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize he was shipping.
I think that's the guy. Oh, I ship. There's 2 or 3 guys who ship, but there's one that I really like, and he's got great product. Yeah, I ship. Awesome. I get stuff from all over the country. So yeah,
I love it.
It's hard to find heirloom anything, so you have to search for it, and you can't keep the heirloom breeds alive unless you eat them.
Got to support it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
that's awesome. Well, Mimi, as we get ready to kind of wrap up here, I'm curious. Well, if there's anything we missed, I know we missed a lot because the book is this masterpiece.
Just get the book. It's at tooManyEggs.com. And
Okay.
we do have a free PDF of the book, because I realize that not everyone can afford a $48 book. So the entire book is PDF on the website toomanyeggs.com.
Oh, awesome.
So you can just get it and download it. If you want to send a donation, that's great.
Yeah.
But I'm not asking that, because I think knowledge should be free and accessible.
Yeah.
So, the book's a beautiful book. It's nice.
It is beautiful. Like it's stunning. Yeah.
I have a copy here if you want me to show you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold it up. So guys, if you're listening, you'll have to go to the YouTube version and look at it if you want to see a picture, or you could go to the website too. But
yeah, it's
huge. And I love
a really
the cover.
big book.
It's really big. So go check out the PDF, guys. But also, if you're like me, I like cooking out of books that I can touch and hold and highlight and underline. So this is one you'd want to invest in for sure, and just have it as a collector's on your shelf, and you can read it and use it, and it's awesome.
So there was no way I could get a publisher to publish this book, because it didn't have pictures.
Yeah.
And it's too big. And so we self-published it. So
you did?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a garage of books.
I admire that so much. That's a lot of work. That's commitment to the egg.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
It's a little touched. And marketing, it's a whole new world when you have to market your own book and publish it and get editors and layout person and all that. So
Well,
we'll see.
You did good.
Next. Well,
it is truly a masterpiece. I think you should be so proud of it. So, I was incredibly impressed just going through it.
Well,
done.
We joke around in my family. It's like, what are you going to write next? Too many zucchini?
Yeah, I know. You probably could. What else? We have, I bet you could. So.
Yeah. How to make your life really interesting.
Yeah. The deep dives. I love the deep dives, though. Like, we have so much surface level stuff in the world. We need the depth. So,
yeah, I guess.
About eggs and beyond.
We don't know what I'll come up with next. Anyway,
I'm excited, though.
I did watch as many of your shows as I could.
Oh, lovely.
I went back and looked at everything, and it's a lovely podcast. I approve.
I'm so glad. I'm honored. Well, you are a lovely guest, and I'm so glad that we connected. I hope we can connect again in other ways down the road.
Anytime.
Yeah.
I'm always here.
Okay, and if I have egg questions, you're the one I'm coming to. I hope you're prepared.
Well, we should just do all the egg drinks. We can just do them live.
There you go. There you go. Well, we have a little restaurant. My husband has been playing with different cocktails, so I might have to talk to you about some egg-based fancy drinks we can put on.
There's a whole chapter in that book.
I'm going to go back to that
chapter to write.
I bet. So we'll be in touch on that with some strategy. So
sounds great. Okay.
Right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.